Hi everyone and welcome to Campus Channel. I'm here with Grenoble Ecole de Management, GEM, and we're going to be talking about the Bachelor in International Business, the BIB. Here with us today, we have the pleasure to welcome the Program Director, Nancy Locatelli. How are you, Nancy?
I'm fine, thank you. Hello.
Hi. And we also have the pleasure to welcome Héloïse Bernard, a third-year student. How are you, Héloïse?
I'm fine too, thank you very much.
Well, there you are both here to answer my questions, but first we're going to start with the pitch. Nancy, you know the drill. You're going to have 60 seconds to tell us what we should know as a beginning about the Bachelor. Are you ready, Nancy?
I'm ready.
Well, it's your turn then.
So the Bachelor in International Business at Grande Ecole de Management is a 3-year bachelor program, so post-high school, which has been newly revised and recently re-accredited for the full 5 years by the French Education Ministry. Students in the first 2 years follow a common curriculum, and in the 3rd year, they have the opportunity to study abroad for 1 semester and to take one of our 6 specializations. I will talk more about the 6 specializations later on in this interview. And to do up to 8 months work experience in the form of a job or an internship. And all this takes place in Grenoble, which is only 3 hours away from Paris on a TGV and an hour and a half away from Geneva, which is the capital of the French Alps, also known as Silicon Valley of France.
All right, perfect. On the clock, right on the clock. Thank you. Nancy, could you walk us through the admission process as a beginning?
Okay, so first of all, there are 1 or 2 new things this year. So there is no longer a concours for the program. In the past, we were part of a concours group, so students no longer have to take the concours. That's the first, perhaps most important piece of information. It also depends whether you are doing a French baccalaureate or an international program. So students doing a French baccalaureate need to apply via Parcoursup. So I think everybody knows what Parcoursup is now. Yeah. And that is done early on next year. For the international students, they need to contact our exchange department because the admission process is slightly different, and that is done online.
Okay, so okay, sorry.
No, so go on. I was going to explain what the admissions involves. So there is an admissions file or a dossier, and that is all done online. So there is a classic application form, name, address, etc. Students have to provide us with a CV. Okay, now many bachelor students have never done a CV before. Many bachelor students don't have work experience, so there's no need to panic on that. Any volunteer experience, any association experience, maybe you're part of a team in high school, you organised an end of year event, difficult during COVID, but maybe. So don't worry about the work experience section too much. If you do have work experience, obviously then we need to know about it. Don't forget to put your last qualification on there or the one you are doing on your CV. We also ask for 2 reference letters. Now, generally they're done by a teacher in high school, but don't forget they can also be done by your boss if you have worked. It's always good to see a reference which has been done in a professional context as well. Can I carry on?
Yes, obviously. I was about to ask you all the details. So, I mean, if you're giving us, giving us, sorry, the details is perfect. I'm listening. We're listening.
Okay. All right. So there's the references, and then we ask students to write 3 short essays. Now, the essays are approximately 500 words long, so you have to be concise. The first essay is what you would like the admissions board to know about you, either academically or professionally. And most students do come straight out of high school, but some students have worked, so it's good for you to put that in the first essay. why you are choosing the BIB, what attracts you to the BIB. And finally, the last essay, and perhaps the one which is slightly typical to GEM, is a culture shock essay. We ask students to explain what they understand by culture shock. Have they experienced culture shock? And if so, how did they deal with it?
All right, it was all theoretical. Now maybe we can go like more into practice. And Héloïse, I'm going to ask you, how did you do a CV? What did you put in your CV? What was your academic background? What did you write in the 3 short essays? What was the cultural shock that you mentioned? Could you like give us more concrete example of what has just been said by Nancy?
It's just a bit unfortunate because I didn't go through this process, because when I applied 3 years ago, it was on Atout+3, which was a concours. So
right.
I actually didn't do that myself.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's so you didn't have to write a CV or anything, but what was your academic background then?
So my academic background, I had been in high school, obviously, and I was in Terminal ES, for the French people who know what that means. So it was an economic and social science exam that I passed at the end of high school. And I applied in, I think, February for the first session of GEM's concours. And I got the results in May, and the rentrée was in September, so it was all very, very quick. And I don't know if it makes much sense for me to talk about Atout+3 because it doesn't exist anymore, but we had many different exercises to do. We had, I think, 3 or 4 written ones, and we had an oral too, which was a bit like, I guess we had to say a bit the same thing about the CV. We had to come with a CV, and we were discussing it in a very friendly way with someone, and they were asking questions about our hobbies, work experience if we had any, and I think it was pretty much the same thing, but more of it was directly face-to-face with someone.
Okay, are there still any interviews, Nancy?
Yes, we do some interviews. We tend to do random interviews. We'll pick on files. We don't interview all the students because there are rather a lot. But we will pick on files, or if there's something we're unsure about, we'll organise a Skype interview with each student. So it is unfortunate that Héloïse joined the programme via the concours, but we're still evaluating the same sort of competencies, and we still want to know, like I said in the essays, about any work experience, the academic experiences. The culture shock essay replaces the interview section where we'd ask about international experience, if the student had any international experience, etc.
And what do you call fluency in English? Because I can hear that Héloïse speaks very well English. Maybe she learned it at during the BIB, I don't know. But I mean, you can hear that she speaks very well English. Do all your students need to speak that well English, or?
No, Héloïse is really lucky. I'll let her explain that, but she's really lucky. No, for international students, so if students have been educated in English, we will not ask for an English test, okay? If students have gone through the French baccalaureate system, we will ask for a YELTS test or a TEFL test, and we ask for a minimum equivalent of 6.5 in the YELTS.
Okay, and how many students do you accept on year 1, year 2? Because apparently you can join at different steps in year 1, year 2, year 3. So how many students do you accept? And maybe we can go into the details on like when and how we can apply.
Okay, so most students join us in year 1, and we accept approximately 100 students each year in year 1. And then obviously those students progress into year 2, and we have a minimum number of students joining us in year 2 by direct entry. Slightly more in year 3, they'll do a 2-year programme at another institution and join us for the 3rd year. However, we have our exchange students who join us in year 2 and year 3 as well, so that bumps up the figures and the international profile of the programme quite a lot.
Okay, and academically speaking, when can I apply? What are the different ways to apply to the BIB?
Okay, so as I said before, if you are doing a French baccalaureate, it is via Parcoursup. So that's the 2-month slot between January and March 2021. All right. If you're doing an international high school diploma, you can apply now.
Okay. Héloïse, when you
admissions are open.
Okay. Héloïse, when you applied to the BEAB, you were, I guess, only 17. How did you know that it was the right program for you?
Well, that's a good question, because I was quite lucky to have had a big brother and a big sister who had done exactly the same thing. They have gone through the Bachelor's in International Business at GEM, so I had an idea of what they were doing and what it was all about, and it just seemed very interesting when I heard them talk about it. And I think that's when I realized that it was an option for me, it was a possibility. And since the applications for GEM were very early during the year, I had the time to think about all different alternatives that I could have. But in the end, since I got the answer from GEM, it really, I mean, it was proof to me that this was what I was meant to be doing. So I think it was previous examples in my family that got me thinking about GEM in the first place. And then, of course, I looked in depth into the courses, into what it was all about, into the requirements, type of qualities they want you to have. And I think I suited it quite well. So that was actually how it worked for me.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking that question is because, I mean, traditionally in France, 5-year studies are said to be better than 3-year studies. What would you say to that, Nancy?
Maybe traditionally. I come from obviously I'm British, and I come from a system where students do a 3-year degree generally anyway. But I think what the French students say is that it allows them to sort of stop and go. A lot of high school students, they're not sure what they want to do when they leave school. And this is quite a lot of students, all right? I'm not just talking about a few, there's a lot of students who aren't sure what they want to do. So a bachelor program in 3 years allows them to just do 3 years to get a generalist education with the chance to specialise slightly. It's an undergraduate specialisation, it's not like a master's specialisation. Before they commit to doing a full 5 years of study. And I think it's something very serious to think about. Before committing to 5 years, there are 3-year programs which then allow you to do a further 2 years and go on and do a master's.
Okay. We mentioned CVs, we mentioned short essays. We understand now why a 3 years program is actually efficient and interesting for a student to apply. What skills or qualities do you look for in your students?
I look for dynamic students, okay? Students who are open-minded, students who are ready to go out of their comfort zone. I think students who want everything on a plate might not be happy within our program. I think, Héloïse, maybe you will agree with me here, but we encourage students, we push students to try and, well, we push them to think for themselves, out of the comfort zone, to do things, to try new things that they'd never have done before. I'm looking for people who can, and this is really important, fit into a multicultural group. We have over 50 different nationalities on the undergraduate program. Even this year with COVID, we're still on 50 different nationalities. So students have to be able to adapt and to work with people who are sometimes very different to themselves.
Héloïse, how concretely have you been pushed out of your comfort zone, and how international is your profile?
Well, I don't know if Nancy mentioned that, I don't think so, but I was born and raised in Grenoble by a British mother and a French dad. So I think I've always had this international background, which actually helped me become a highly adaptable person. I think this is one of the things that I like the most about GEM, is that you step into the class, well, you usually do, and you see all these different profiles with so many different values, different cultures. And at first it can seem a bit difficult, because this is basically what it means to be pushed out of your comfort zone. You have to understand other people and be tolerant, and sometimes you just want to find a sense of normalcy. But I think it's really what has shaped all of us into more professional people. We know that in the working world, it's not, everyone is not the same. We all have different backgrounds, and I think even I, who have had the chance to be raised by two parents from two different cultures, I have learned a lot, a gem, about this tolerance and this open-mindedness that you need in business schools in general.
Okay, so very international indeed. I believe it's time for us to take our first break. It's time to go to the clichés. Héloïse, Nancy, you're going to have to give us one clichés, one preconception that you might have had before applying to the Bachelor, before teaching in this Bachelor. Maybe I'm going to start with you, Héloïse, and then I will let Nancy give us her clichés. So Héloïse, what would be the cliché that you might have had before applying or once you were in the school?
That's a tough question because there are many clichés in business schools, I think, just like in every kind of school. But I would say the main one is that before entering GEM, I often heard people saying that in business schools, students pay for their diplomas and that they're not completely involved in the work, and it's all about, getting the degree at the end and that's it. And I actually really want to tell people how false this idea is, completely false, because first of all, we aren't all lazy and we know how to work. We enjoy putting time and effort in projects, and I think we just deserve what we get. It's probably like anything in life. Money can potentially get you somewhere, but it's up to you whether or not you'll manage to get the expected outcome of experience that you're looking for or not.
Okay, so you don't pay for your diploma and your hard work at the same time. Well, I guess you still pay for the school, I hope. And you, Nancy, what would be the cliché that you want to give?
Okay, so the clichés aren't the same, I don't think, between the French students and the international students. So for a French student, it might be you have to be really good at maths to enter the programme. It's not at all the case. As Héloïse said, she did ES. We have students who did the old baccalaureate system who did a Bac S, but we have students as well who did a Bac L. And just to touch on the reform of the baccalaureate, you don't have to have done French to apply. Sorry, you don't have to have done maths to apply for our programme. Okay, and the cliché from the non-French students might be that you need to speak French to join the programme, and that's not the case. All right, many of our students don't speak any French when they arrive, but French is compulsory for them within the programme. So that's a cliché that we can get rid of as well.
Okay, thank you for all those precisions. How is it possible to specialize in a particular sector during this Bachelor in international business? As you mentioned, it's only 3 years. So how do you make it, how do you make it happen?
Okay, so we make it happen in year 3. So there are 6 specializations. Global management, which is probably the most generalist of the specializations. We have finance and accounting. We have marketing and advertising. We have entrepreneurship. We have a tourism specialization as well, which takes place in Barcelona with one of our partner institutions. And the final one is perhaps the most unusual. It's the fashion and design specialization. Okay, so students have the choice of 6 specializations, but also we mustn't forget the internships, because the internship is also a way to specialize. Students might, after year 2, after studying accounting or corporate finance or managerial and financial accounting in years 1 and year 2, might be thinking of going on to do a finance and accounting specialization in year 3. So I would advise them to get actual concrete work experience in their specialization during the internship. So they also get, they get the academic specialization within the classroom, but they also get the practical side in an internship.
Okay, Héloïse, you are a 3rd-year student, so maybe you could tell us about your specialization.
So it hasn't started yet because it's during the 2nd semester of the 3rd year, but I chose entrepreneurship, and it was for me a very logical choice, because I knew that whatever my choice would be, it wasn't an end in itself. It doesn't mean that you have to do this, you know, with your life. So I just perceived it as the way to acquire new skills and discuss things that I liked doing. And so that's why I chose entrepreneurship, because, you know, I'm someone who enjoys thinking out of the box, and I think there's no better way to do so than to put ourselves in the shoes of modern day entrepreneurs. And I'm having actually at the minute an introduction course to entrepreneurship before the actual specialization starts, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm absolutely not regretting my choice.
Nancy mentioned internships. What were your 2 internships, and has the school helped you find an internship?
So my first internship at the end of the first year, to be totally honest with you, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. So I looked for a general one, and I ended up at the Groupe Samsé, which is a DIY retail shop, but in the headquarters in Grenoble. And I was in the marketing and innovation department, and it was very interesting, but it really showed me what I wanted and didn't want to do and didn't want to experience in the second internship too. And so my second internship, which took place remotely, unfortunately, this summer, was in an information services company, which is called IHS Market, based in London. And it was an amazing opportunity for me, because it was what they call an internship program that you do before you might actually get a contract for a graduate program. I'm still waiting for the answer, by the way. And it was an amazing experience, because so I interned in the sales department of the financial services, so much more specialized than my first internship. And I think that's really, as Nancy said, what gave me the feeling that I had to do entrepreneurship, that I had to specialize in things that were very interesting to me, and not just what people said were important, so finance and maths in France, which is you know, what they usually say. As for whether the school helped me or not, I know that in my personal situation, I use network quite a lot, and I think it's just, I mean, network is the key word in this bachelor's. The school really encourages you to create your own network, to see around, you know, talk to your family, talk to your family's friends, talk to these friends' friends, and just create your own bubble. And this bubble is what actually got me my 2 internships, of course, as well as very long interviews. And yeah, that's about it. I think it was, but internships are definitely very, very important in the process, probably even more than a specialization.
Yeah, as I heard, it helped you develop like what you wanted to do with your life, which is pretty important. Nancy, I was wondering, what international accreditation and recognition does this program have?
Well, we have the Triple Crown, so Amber, Equis, and ASCSB, the 3 international accreditations. Okay, and then we have the and then we have the visa from the French Education Ministry. And as I said in my introduction, we are reaccredited for the full 5 years, starting from September 2020.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you tell us what is the Capstone module?
Okay, so the Capstone module takes place in the final semester of the 3rd year. So Héloïse hasn't done that yet, and it's a module. It's a module which all students do. It's compulsory. Students are put into teams. All right, usually of about 4 or 5. They don't choose their teams, we put them into teams, and we do our best to mix students from each specialisation again. So people are working with people that they're not necessarily with in the main classroom. And basically it's a module which brings together everything at the end of the programme. So the students have to work on a business plan. They have to create a business plan and each student has to do that. Each student within the group has to do their individual business plan, and then the group choose the best, and then they have to work together to put this business plan into practice. Okay, and do all the research which is necessary when you're creating a startup, again, to use their networks to find out more. There's an individual part, which is the initial business plan, and then there's the group part where the students have to work together and then present their startup or their company or their project that they plan to create.
Okay, I guess, Héloïse, you must be waiting for the Capstone module since you're an entrepreneur soon. I was wondering, Héloïse, because like we talk about like many good things about the BEEB and we all want to apply, obviously, after all the good things that have been said, but is there anything you didn't like about the BEEB?
That's a very tough question. I wouldn't say there's...
You can say nothing.
No,
you're allowed to say nothing. All right, it's fine.
No, it's not because Nancy's there, but honestly, there's nothing I disliked. I'm going to maybe change the question around and say what I think could be added to the program. And I would say maybe having more interaction and common projects between all the IB classes. And I know there's this Capstone project we just talked about, so it kind of does that. But there are 4 classes in the IB this year, and I've been here for 3 years, and there are still many people that I hadn't had the chance to meet professional-wise. And I think it would be great if, I don't know, I feel like we might be missing out on even more because we can't get the chance to work with everyone, and maybe that could be encouraged during a few sessions or something. But I know it's also our personal responsibility to do that, and it's just a remark, but I think overall in the program there's nothing that I really dislike.
All right, Nancy heard you.
Can I just add something? Do you mind
yes.
if I add something there?
No.
Okay, because what students complain to me about might be an interesting thing. Students complain to me that there's actually too much group work. Now, Héloïse mentioned that there wasn't enough interaction between the class groups, okay, which we have 4 in the 3rd year this year. But students also tell me that there's too much group work on the program, okay, so we put them into groups a little bit too much, and like I talked about the Capstone, that there's a lot of group work, so that does tend to, it's hard work working with other people. All right, sometimes we don't get on with everyone, so that's really tough. But a few years down the line, the alumni come back to me and they say that was actually what helped them, not the most, but that's what really helped them when they started work in the real world and they were part of a group. The fact that they'd already had that experience at GEM has really helped them progress in their personal, in their professional life.
Yes, because you don't always get along with your team, even in your professional life. So I guess, not always. Yeah. And I was wondering, how do you deal with arguments that could happen in a group of students, for example?
Well, first of all, we encourage the students to try and sort the problems out themselves, okay? By the time, they're in the 1st year, some of them are still 17, but most of them are adults. So I think that's perhaps one of the things that makes us stand out from other schools is we really do try to make the student understand that as soon as they step foot in the school in September where they start, that it's like being in a company. So when you work in a professional situation, you don't go crying to your boss every time somebody does something to upset you. You should always try and sort that problem out with the person first before appealing to higher authority, obviously. So we try and encourage that. Obviously, if that doesn't work, then the professor will get involved and try and mediate, and if it gets really serious, then I step in. But it very rarely gets to the point where I have to step in. Quite often we use peer evaluation when there's a problem as well. So people within the group can evaluate each other. That's not counted, obviously, in the evaluation for the course, but it does make some of the free riders think, oh yeah, I need to do a bit more on this. So there are ways of making people pull their socks up.
Okay, so you're really involving them and their responsibility and their ability to become adults and responsible.
Yeah,
for
we
what they're
really
doing.
do work on that. We really do try to work on that. I think it's important.
Okay, thank you very much. We've been talking a lot, answering a lot of questions. It's time for our second break. I believe that a picture speaks more than 1,000 words, and that's what we're going to discover with Who Am I? Héloïse, Nancy, I will be introducing you to 3 different characters, and you're going to have to tell me which one, according to you, represents the best the program that you're in or that you're teaching in. The 3 people I'm going to introduce you to are, the first one is called Michaela Schifrin. She is a famous, well, she's the most famous alpine skier. I'm sure you will make the link between Grande Ecole de Management and a skier. The second one is called Justin Bieber. I don't know, since it was the Beeb, I thought that the people within the Beeb would be called the Bieber. And then you have Mickey Mouse, because to me he is kind of as French as international, because we have like Disneyland Paris. And so I will let you pick which one, according to you, Héloïse, is represent the best, the Beeb.
I'll leave the first one for Nancy because there's an obvious link here that you can make. I think I would go for Justin Bieber, and that might be controversial, I know. But I think he's quite representative of the BIB because he is an innovative person. He doesn't do things to please others. He does things that he thinks work, and they actually do. This is why he's been successful for years now. And I really think that in the Bachelors, they teach us to be independent and to be our own person. And this is probably a good example of someone who has done what he thought was best rather than what other people wanted him to do.
Okay, thank you, Héloïse. Nancy, which one is it going to be, Mickey Mouse or Michaela?
It'll be Michaela, the alpine skier, and obviously the link is skiing. It also gives me the chance to talk about Grenoble as a city and its obvious closeness. I think I said in my introduction that it was the capital of the French Alps, so you can hop on a bus. The school is right next to the train station and the bus station. You can hop on a bus and within 45 minutes you can ski. Okay, so that's a real attraction to the city. And as far as the school is concerned, we also have our largest student association, which is known as Altiglys, is an association, the ski association of GEM. And each year the school closes down for a week in March, and all the students who would like to participate, students normally go up to Val d'Isère. So there's no one in the school except staff, and there's even a day for the staff during the week where the staff go up to Val d'Isère and ski as well. So that's why I chose the alpine skier.
Okay, makes sense. And she's, I believe she's very famous because she's the only skier ever, male or female, who has like won four times in a row the world title. So she's like really I guess she has everything to do with the Beeb. And one of my questions was, Grenoble do not come across as an international city. Why should I choose to study a bachelor there? And I guess you just answered that question perfectly. I'm intrigued by your course. Tell me.
I was going to say as well that, like I said, it's the Silicon Valley, but we've also just been voted European Green City as well for 2022. So that'll put us on the map as well.
Yes, it does. I'm intrigued by your courses. There's a lot of courses that start with sustainable. And I was wondering, does your program take into consideration the environment and the impact of the business industry?
It does. It does. I think that's something that runs throughout the program anyway and throughout the school. But perhaps you see it in the ethics module in the third year. Okay, so Héloïse, you're currently doing that module because it's a module this semester, and it's also brought out. You'll see in the specialization, the specializations in in the second semester. But this sustainable thread runs through GEM anyway, just from basic things like the way we organise our garbage, our rubbish within the school, the way things are organised within the school. This sustainability is, and I think we were also voted second best sustainable or second most sustainable school in France, or don't quote me on that, but I think we were.
Okay, well, that's pretty exhaustive as well. So I was wondering, how long on average will I have to look for a job before finding one with this program?
Okay, the statistics I have show that generally within 2 months, okay, students have found something. Okay, now that allows me to talk more about what students do after the program. Now, like I said, this sort of stop and go studying, students do 3 years and then they work and then they might do a master's. Okay, so 70% of our students actually carry on and do a master's straight away after the program. Okay, that might be an MSc or a Programme Grande Ecole in France. Okay, so it's only actually approximately 30% who go into the workplace. So going back to your question, it's usually between 2 to 6 months students have found a job.
And can I join the Programme Grande Ecole from GEM, for example, after the BIB?
Yes, you can. You can. Not many students do. And the reason why is because the BIB, if you haven't guessed already, is very international. And students tend to want to fly off and go somewhere else. They don't necessarily want to stay in France once they've graduated from the BIB, okay? Or they might stay on a GEM program and study at one of our other campuses. The BIB allows students to enter most students do go to the UK and do a master's program there. So maybe in London, LSE or King's is quite both very popular at the moment. Bocconi in Milan as well, IE in Madrid. So students have had this taste of study abroad or an internship abroad. Usually, once they've done the BIB, they don't want to stay in Grenoble and do the Programme Grande Ecole. But some do.
And would you say it's easier for a student who's done the BIB to go study abroad, or would you say it's like it's a massive help and like for foreign universities like BIB students?
Well, they usually get accepted. So obviously, foreign students do like BIB students, yes. I do lots of reference letters for students applying abroad, and usually they get one of the universities of their choice.
Okay, thank you. Héloïse, Nancy mentioned students' organization. Are you part of one?
Well, I'm not a very good example for that because
I'm so sorry for asking like so many wrong questions to you.
No, it's a very good question, but I've made my first on my external activities, but many of my friends tell me about how brilliant it is to be part of one, and I totally trust them on that. Obviously, I wouldn't give my opinion on which I think is best or anything, because it's very subjective, but I know that there's a real diversity of associations in GEM, and that it's actually one of the reasons for which students pick this school in the first place. So there are so many associations, I couldn't even cite them all. They talk in all types of I'm going to say industries, but it's not really an industry, but there are some about fashion, some about finance, some about innovation, entrepreneurship. It's very diverse, and I think anyone can find something that suits their interests in one of these associations for sure.
And how would you say the student's life has evolved with the pandemic?
Well, unfortunately not very well, of course, because everything social has gone a little bit downhill. But I know that I keep very good relations with all my friends and all my classmates. We're all very attached to the school. We all like each other a lot. We do meetings where we call each other. You know, we still have a lot of group work, as Nancy mentioned, so we still get the impression that we're working together every day. So I think it's gone in the best way that it could have gone, but obviously it's a bit disappointing to not be able to see these people, especially since there were new students that I haven't even met in real life yet this year.
Okay, and maybe Nancy, you want to add and tell us how you've adapted the courses and the student life to the last events.
So we always do a team building event at the start of the academic year for new students. And so what we did this year is we put students into groups and we asked them to have a meal online. So obviously we've got students from all around the world. So some students were in Asia, some were in America. So for some it was lunchtime, for others it was breakfast. But they had to have a meal with their group. And we encouraged students to maybe to cook their national dish or to talk to the other students about something particular that they ate in that country. So it was quite a funny team event. Some teams videoed their meal, so we had a good laugh at the videos or the chat. So that was good. And then obviously, I think GEM was one of the first schools to announce at the end of the last academic year that we would do the first 2 months online, and that allowed our international students to be reassured if they couldn't get flights to France, they would be able to follow the classes from home. Okay, so that everything was online. We used Teams or Zoom for the first part of the semester. Then we hoped that things would get slightly more closer to normal, but they didn't. So in the second semester, I think there'll be a mixture of high flex. So that's where we have some students in the classroom and some students, the ones that can't make it to France or the ones who are self-isolating, they will be able to stay at home and follow the classes from the comfort of their house. But it's not been an easy challenge for any of us.
Okay, thank you for all those precisions. I believe it's time to wrap up any loose ends. It's time for extra time. Nancy, Héloïse, you're going to have 1 minute each to tell us what hasn't been said or something you want to emphasize on that has already been said. Héloïse, I'm going to give you 1 minute, you're going to start, and then Nancy, I will let you close the show. Héloïse, it's your turn.
Well, GEM is a school in which I think anyone can feel at home because of its genuine diversity and the sense of inclusiveness that you really feel the minute you step into the building. Please don't stress if you don't know what you want to do, if you're not sure about this choice, because the Bachelor's is a rather general program and it gives you the chance to specialize in the third year, as we said, so you'll have a better idea later on. There's no problem about that. I totally recommend this program to those people who feel that they could benefit from international teaching environment, great teachers, those who obviously see themselves working in business on the long term or not. It doesn't have to be, it can be one step towards your professional career, and those who enjoy day-to-day challenges, of course.
Thank you, Héloïse. Nancy, the last words.
Okay, so something we've not talked about is our careers service. We do have an excellent careers service at GEM. We have a recruitment forum as well every year, and we do have our undergraduate partner companies that have been used to taking BIB students year in, year out now. So there is an excellent careers service there for the undergraduate students. One thing that I'd like to emphasise is the size of our classes at GEM. Students will be in a classroom of between 30 and 40 students, maybe even slightly less for a specialisation. Especially the fashion design major, that always attracts usually about 20-25 students maximum. So compared to universities or other schools, our class sizes are very small, which allows for student-teacher interaction. And perhaps something else that makes us stand out is that we do when we send students on exchange, we tend to send maybe 2 to 3 students to each destination. Okay, so that might be the States, it might be Singapore, it might be China, it might be Scandinavia. We don't send whole classes, so that gives the students the chance to have a real immersion rather than being with students from the classroom in GEM.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Héloïse, and thank you, Nancy, for answering all my questions. I hope you have all the answers you need. If you don't hesitate to contact either Nancy or Héloïse. I'm sure they will answer your questions as well. I hope you had fun watching this interview, and I hope to see you soon on Campus Chanel.